What if everything you've ever wanted in life, respect, influence, control, wasn't about being the smartest, the richest, or the loudest, but about learning how to outthink the world around you? Imagine for a moment that you've been playing the game of life with incredible potential but the wrong instructions, that your setbacks weren't because you lacked value, but because you didn't understand the rules that govern real power. The truth is, most people are reacting, not thinking. They're stuck in habits, trapped by emotion, and blindly influenced by those who know how to control the narrative. And that is where dominance is born. Not in superiority, but in strategy. Right now, the world is flooded with noise. Everyone is trying to be heard, trying to be seen, trying to prove something. But the person who learns how to listen deeper, speak less, and move with intention gains a psychological edge no one can touch. Outsmarting others isn't about deception. It's about clarity. It's about seeing 10 moves ahead when everyone else is stuck in the moment. That kind of clarity doesn't come from books or titles. It comes from training your mind to see patterns, to remain calm under pressure, and to act from power, not panic. But here's the hard truth. Intelligence alone won't save you. Plenty of brilliant people are stuck in average lives because they don't know how to use their intelligence as a weapon. They overthink, they hesitate, they let fear and emotion override logic. And every time they do, they hand over power to someone who understands the mental battlefield better than they do. You don't need to be a genius to dominate. You need discipline, awareness, and strategy. And when you combine those three, you become someone no one can manipulate, intimidate, or outplay. The rules of outsmarting anyone are not just mental, they're emotional. It's about mastering your reactions, your body language, your words, and your silence. It's about learning how to walk into any room and shift the energy without even trying. It's about knowing what to say, when to say nothing, and how to stay 5 steps ahead of people who are still trying to catch up to your last move. This isn't about ego, it's about survival, it's about influence. It's about owning your space in a world that constantly tries to shrink you. If you're tired of being underestimated, if you felt powerless in moments where you should have led, if you've watched others rise while you stayed silent, this is your wake-up call. This is the moment you start training not just your mind, but your presence. Because once you understand how to outsmart the system, the people, and even your own impulses, there is nothing and no one that can stand in your way. Stay with this until the end. What you're about to learn isn't just 5 rules. It's a new way of moving through life. Quiet, strategic, unstoppable. And it changes everything. Power begins the moment you stop being controlled by your emotions. The second you can feel anger, feel fear, feel disappointment, and still choose your response, that's when you become dangerous. Because most people are prisoners to their impulses. They react before they think. They speak before they listen. They fight battles that were designed to trap them. But when you learn to master emotional detachment, you stop dancing to the rhythm of other people's chaos. You become still, focused, clear, and that clarity makes you untouchable. Emotional detachment doesn't mean becoming cold. It means becoming controlled. It means refusing to hand your energy over to people who feed off your reaction. Every time someone provokes you, criticizes you, ignores you, they're fishing for control. And when you respond emotionally, they win. But when you can look someone in the eyes and feel absolutely nothing while choosing your move with precision, you flip the power dynamic instantly. You're no longer playing defense. You're setting the rules. Control isn't loud. It's calm. It doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't need to win arguments. It simply decides, silently, how the game will unfold. That level of power is built through inner discipline. You learn to pause when your ego screams. You learn to wait when your pride wants to react. You train your nervous system to stay grounded even when everything in you wants to explode. And over time, people begin to feel something around you they can't explain. An unshakable presence. A kind of energy that can't be rattled. This is what separates those who dominate from those who drown. Emotional detachment gives you space. It gives you time. It lets you read the room, feel the tension, see the manipulation, and still hold your position. You stop playing checkers. You start playing chess. Because you realize you don't need to be the loudest voice to be the most powerful one. You don't need to react to every threat. You let people show their hand while you stay 5 moves ahead, untouched by their drama, unbothered by their chaos. You will be tested. People will push your buttons. Life will throw sharp edges. But the strongest person is not the one who never feels. It's the one who feels everything and still chooses power over panic, strength over sensitivity, precision over emotion. That kind of control doesn't just protect you, it elevates you. It gives you access to conversations, opportunities, and influence that reactive people will never reach. Because no one trusts the unstable, but everyone follows the composed. If you want to outsmart anyone, start here. Master yourself. Master your reactions. Let nothing break your focus. Let no one pull you off balance. This is how you rise above the noise, not with more emotion, but with more command. When you own your mind, you own the room. And when you own the room, the world moves for you, not the other way around. If you don't control the frame, someone else will. And the moment they do, you're no longer leading, you're reacting. Every conversation, every negotiation, every interaction is built on one silent rule. Whoever defines the meaning wins. People don't respond to truth, they respond to context. They don't follow facts, they follow confidence. And the one who sets the frame controls how the facts are seen and how the confidence is felt. This is the invisible game most never see. They chase validation while someone else is shaping the rules around them. Framing is power. It's the ability to decide what the moment means. It's walking into a room and instantly shifting the temperature. Without force, without noise, just through presence and precision. When you control the frame, you're not waiting for permission. You're not seeking agreement. You're declaring intention, and the world is forced to either adapt or fall behind. The frame you carry becomes the reality people respond to. And that's not manipulation, that's leadership. Weak frames crumble under pressure. They bend when challenged. They beg to be accepted. But a strong frame is rooted in self-trust. It doesn't flinch when misunderstood. It doesn't collapse under judgment. It stands anchored in purpose. People follow strong frames not because they're convinced, but because they feel something undeniable. A presence that makes them question their own. And that's what gives the dominant their edge. They don't just speak, they shape how others hear. They don't just act, they shape how others feel about those actions. To build that kind of frame, you must stop outsourcing your certainty. You must decide who you are before the world tells you who to be. You must define what success, confidence, and strength look like on your terms. Because if you don't, someone will hand you a version that keeps you small, and that version will never bring peace. It will never bring power. It will only keep you chasing approval while handing your influence away. The one who frames the situation controls the outcome. And this isn't just about words, it's about energy. It's how you enter a room. It's the way you sit, the tone of your voice, the certainty in your decisions. It's the calm confidence that makes others stop questioning. Because when you're rooted, they don't need more proof. They feel it, and they adjust accordingly. Start practicing this in every area of your life. Don't wait for others to define the mood, the moment, or the meaning. You walk in and decide. You create the space where confidence lives. You set the standard that others rise to. This isn't arrogance, it's authority. It's not dominance for ego, it's dominance for direction. If you want influence, if you want impact, if you want to be unshakable, then you must build a frame so strong that the world bends around you, not the other way around. Silence is not the absence of power, it is the display of it. In a world addicted to noise, the one who can sit with stillness owns the room. Most people speak to fill the void because they fear what silence might reveal. But the powerful understand that silence is not empty, it is loaded. It creates tension, it forces presence, and it turns attention inward. When you choose silence with intention, it becomes the most commanding language in your arsenal. It's not passivity, it's precision. The weak speak quickly. They rush to explain, to defend, to impress. But speed reveals insecurity. True dominance is patient. It doesn't rush to be understood. It doesn't chase validation. It doesn't fear pauses. It uses them. Silence becomes a weapon, calculated, deliberate, unnerving, because the longer you can hold silence, the more you force the other person to confront their own uncertainty. You take control without lifting a finger. You influence without saying a word. This is how power moves, not loudly, but deliberately, with presence, with poise, with the kind of quiet that makes people lean in, not look away. Every second you delay a response builds pressure. Every breath you take in calm defiance rewrites the dynamic. People remember silence more than words, because silence reveals what people try to hide. It strips away the surface and exposes intention. It reveals insecurity in others and certainty in you. Silence is not weakness, it is mastery. It is choosing not to play their game, but to control the pace. It gives you time to observe, to think, to decide. And in that space between stimulus and response lies your greatest advantage: control. You're not impulsively reacting, you're strategically positioning. You're letting others speak themselves into corners while you remain composed, focused, and unreadable. Use silence to disarm. Use it to listen deeply. Use it to observe what others miss. Most people are so uncomfortable with silence that they reveal more than they should just to break it. Let them. Let them chase the comfort of noise while you command the space with your presence. Let them fill the air while you study every word, every hesitation, every contradiction. Because while they try to impress, you're learning how to dominate. Silence doesn't beg. It doesn't apologize. It doesn't ask for permission. It waits. It watches. It strikes only when the time is right. And that's what makes it unstoppable. You don't have to be aggressive to be powerful. You just have to be unshakable. Silence is a message I am not here to prove. I am here to lead. I do not need to be seen. I will be felt. Let others chase noise. Let them shout. Let them rush. But you, stand still. Own the silence. Let it speak for you. Because when you learn to say more with nothing than most say with everything, you've already won. You can't outsmart what you can't see. Most people listen to words, but the sharp ones read everything else. Dominance isn't just built through what you say. It's built through what you notice before anyone else does. The body speaks louder than the mouth ever will. Every glance, every shift, every pause tells a story. And those who learn to read it walk into every room with an advantage no one can take. Because when you understand what's not being said, you become immune to deception. You stop guessing and start knowing. People leak truth when they try to hide it. A forced smile, a tightened jaw, restless hands, eyes that avoid contact. These are signals. Not flaws, not weaknesses, just data. Most overlook it because they're too busy waiting for their turn to speak. But you're not here to speak. You're here to dominate. You're here to absorb every signal, analyze every shift, and process what others miss. Because the one who sees clearly always wins. Presence begins with observation. Noticing how someone enters a room. Tracking how they react under pressure. Watching how their energy changes with every question. These small details are not small, they're maps. They show you where people are confident, where they're insecure, where they're vulnerable. And the more you train your mind to notice, the less you'll ever be blindsided again. This is power. Not in volume, not in aggression, but in precision. In being 10 steps ahead because you saw what others ignored. You don't need to announce your strength when you can study theirs. You don't need to manipulate when you can understand. Because real influence comes from alignment with truth. And truth is always visible to those who are willing to watch in silence. Read people before they speak and you'll hear the story behind their words. You'll sense the fear behind the smile, the control behind the charm, the insecurity behind the arrogance. And once you see it, you can no longer be fooled by it. Most people show more than they intend. They don't realize how much their body gives away. And that's where your edge is born. Not in forcing reactions, but in staying quiet long enough to witness the truth surface on its own. While others try to talk their way into control, you observe your way into dominance. You don't need to interrupt. You let their patterns reveal themselves. Because they always do. Start training your eyes. Tune into the details. Master stillness, and you'll master perception. The one who reads the room doesn't just survive in it. They shape it. They walk in aware, grounded, prepared. And in a world full of blind reactions, that kind of clarity is lethal. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You just need to see more than they do. Because when you see more, you control more. And when you control more, you never have to chase power. It responds to you. Power without patience is self-destruction in disguise. The world rushes. People scramble. They want instant results, instant approval, instant wins. But the ones who dominate long-term understand something deeper. Timing is everything. You can be smart, prepared, confident, but if you move too soon, you lose your edge. Patience isn't passive. It's precise. It's a form of discipline that separates the impulsive from the strategic, the loud from the lethal, the temporary from the timeless. When you learn to wait, you gain clarity. You watch how people reveal themselves. You see the game unfold without needing to force a single move. While others exhaust themselves trying to rush outcomes, you observe, align, and position yourself in silence. This is how calculated dominance is built, not by pushing harder, but by waiting for the exact moment when your impact will be undeniable. Power doesn't need to chase. It arrives when it's ready, and it lands with force. The greatest plays are made by those who understand restraint, who know that holding back is not weakness, but leverage. Because every delay isn't a pause, it's a setup. It's storing power, refining intent, sharpening focus. And when the time comes to act, you don't just move, you strike. With clarity, with precision, with force that was earned in the silence between decisions. That is what makes a move unstoppable, not how fast it's made, but how perfectly it lands. Impatience is the enemy of power. It turns emotion into error. It makes you speak when silence would have revealed more. It makes you chase when waiting would have made you irresistible. Every time you act out of urgency instead of strategy, you reduce your influence. But when you sit in discomfort, when you allow tension to rise without rushing to release it, you gain control over yourself. And through that, control over every situation you face. Patience gives birth to timing, and timing is the invisible advantage of the elite. It's what allows one word to outweigh 100. One gesture to change the direction of a room, one move to end the game. But that kind of impact only comes when you've waited, watched, listened. It comes when you've studied the patterns and seen the moment before it arrives. You don't guess. You know. And knowing is everything. The difference between dominance and disaster is often just a few seconds. The time you take to breathe before responding. The decision you delay until you're certain. The move you save until the outcome is guaranteed. That's patience. That's power. Not because you're afraid to act, but because you've trained yourself to act only when it matters most. Let others rush. Let them burn out chasing immediacy. But you, be still. Be calculated. Be precise. Wait until your move is so perfectly timed that it doesn't just change the situation, it ends the debate. That's how you dominate. Quietly. Patiently. With precision that no one sees coming until it's already too late. You lose your edge the moment you start chasing approval. The second you begin to need validation, you give away your power. Because power isn't found in being liked. It's found in being unshakably aligned with who you are. Approval is addictive. It whispers lies. It tells you that you're only enough when someone else agrees. But dominance begins when you decide that your value is not up for negotiation, that your presence is not a performance, that your truth does not need applause to be real. Most people live their lives molding themselves to fit expectations. They shrink their voice, adjust their posture, dilute their opinions, all to be accepted. But approval is a trap. It keeps you tame. It rewards you for staying predictable, soft, small. And as long as you chase it, you'll never lead. Because those who follow the crowd cannot influence it. Those who fear rejection can never set the tone. Power is not earned by being agreeable. It's built by being authentic. Let go of the need to be understood by everyone. Let go of the habit of explaining yourself to people who have no intention of understanding you. Your path will threaten the insecure. Your silence will provoke the reactive. Your presence will irritate those who live without purpose. And that's not your problem. That's your confirmation. Because when you stop shrinking, the world around you reveals who's intimidated by your expansion. You cannot be dominant and dependent at the same time. Choose. Either you live for their validation, or you live from your vision. Either you beg for likes, or you command respect. Either you silence yourself to fit in, or you speak your truth and let the weak fall away. This isn't arrogance. It's alignment. You're not above anyone, but you've outgrown the game of needing everyone's permission to stand tall. And that's when you become untouchable. People will try to guilt you back into your old self. They'll call your growth selfish, your silence rude, your confidence dangerous. Ignore it. They are only reacting to what they can't control. And that's what dominance looks like. Being so certain, so rooted, so intentional that no reaction can shake your foundation. That's the version of you they can't handle. And that's the version you're becoming. Build your self-worth in silence. Stack your confidence in discipline. Anchor your identity in values, not opinions. And remind yourself daily, no one gets to vote on your potential. No one gets to define your worth. Your mission is not to be liked. It's to be real, to be strong, to be free. Because only when you're free from the chains of approval do you begin to move with true power. Unfiltered, unshaken, undeniable. Stop waiting for applause. You are not here to perform. You are here to lead. And leaders don't need permission. They need purpose. You have it. Now live like it. Fully, boldly, without asking anyone if it's okay. Pressure is not your enemy. It is your training ground. It exposes your weaknesses, but it also reveals your strength. The difference between those who rise and those who break is not their talent or background. It's how they respond to intensity. When others panic, the dominant breathe. When others freeze, the dominant move. And that's not instinct. It's conditioning. Mental toughness isn't given, it's built. It's forged in the moments when everything feels overwhelming and you still choose clarity over chaos. You can't become unshakable by avoiding discomfort. You become unshakable by facing it again and again until it loses its power over you. Every pressure you survive becomes proof that you are stronger than your fear. Every test you endure becomes armor for the next storm. While most people run from resistance, you walk toward it, not because you enjoy the struggle, but because you understand what it creates inside you. Strength, precision, power. Not loud power, but quiet, unbreakable power. You must train your mind the way warriors train their bodies. Consistently, relentlessly, with intention. Mental toughness is a muscle. Every time you choose focus over frustration, you build it. Every time you stay grounded when others lose control, you reinforce it. It is not built in comfort. It is built in moments where your excuses sound louder than your goals, where everything in you wants to retreat, but something deeper, your purpose, commands you to keep going. Pressure doesn't mean you're failing, it means you're leveling up. It means life is preparing you for a bigger role, a greater challenge, a higher version of yourself. Most will fold under it. Most will complain. Most will find ways to avoid it entirely. But you are not most. You are not here to live a life of avoidance. You are here to face fire and come out forged. Sharper, clearer, unstoppable. Every time you face pressure with strength, you rewire your identity. You start to see yourself differently. Not as someone who hopes to make it, but as someone who expects to. Because you've already survived what others would have quit. You've already walked through storms that would have drowned the unprepared. And you're still standing. That alone makes you dangerous. That alone makes you different. So when pressure comes, don't flinch. Don't collapse. Lean in. Let it teach you where you still need to grow. Let it show you what's real and what's just noise. Let it harden your focus, not your heart. Because the ones who thrive under pressure are the ones who shape the world. They don't wait for the storm to pass, they become the storm. Controlled, focused, relentless. You don't rise when it's easy, you rise when it's hard and you refuse to bend. Pressure isn't punishment, it's preparation. Welcome it. Train in it. Dominate through it. Because the world doesn't reward the comfortable. It remembers the ones who performed when everything around them was screaming collapse, and they chose control. That's who you are. That's who you're becoming. The most powerful influence is the one that requires no words. Real presence is not spoken. It is felt. Before you open your mouth, people are already making decisions about your strength, your certainty, your command of the moment. And it has nothing to do with what you say. It's your posture, your eye contact, the energy you carry when you walk into a room. Influence doesn't begin with charisma. It begins with control, or control over your body, your breath, your internal state. When that is aligned, you don't need to convince anyone of your power. They feel it, and they respond to it. Most people are desperate to be noticed, but the ones who are truly seen never have to try. Because when you master nonverbal communication, everything about you speaks. Your presence speaks confidence. Your stillness speaks certainty. Your eyes speak truth. Your movements speak intention. The room adjusts to you not because of your volume, but because of your vibration. There is something unmistakable about someone who has nothing to prove. That is what makes presence so magnetic. It's not a trick. It's not about being loud or entertaining. It's about alignment. When your internal power matches your external calm, people trust you without knowing why. They lean in. They listen. They hesitate to challenge you, not out of fear, but out of respect for the energy you command without effort. That kind of presence is earned. It's built through discipline, self-respect, and the refusal to perform for approval. Every day, you are sending signals before you speak. How you stand, how you walk, how you breathe. It all matters. Power is felt in the way you carry yourself when no one is watching. It's in the calmness of your breath when others are tense. It's in the way you hold silence without breaking eye contact. It's in the subtle confidence that doesn't demand attention, it commands it. You don't have to dominate the conversation to dominate the room. Start building presence from the inside out. Regulate your nervous system. Practice stillness. Stop fidgeting. Stop rushing. Move like you already belong where you are. Because when you believe it, others do too. Presence is not arrogance. It's peace. It's standing in your worth without needing validation. It's showing up with clarity, certainty, and discipline. You don't chase moments, you shape them. People remember how you made them feel. And when your presence speaks before your words, you create impact without explanation. You move people without touching them. You influence them without persuading them. You shift energy just by being fully in control of yours. That's what power looks like in its purest form. It's quiet. It's calm. It's undeniable. You don't need to force it. You just need to become it. And when you do, the world moves differently around you. Not because you told it to, but because it recognized the strength in your silence. That is the power of presence. Unspoken, unshakable, unmatched. The greatest advantage you will ever have is the ability to recognize manipulation before it takes root. People don't always come with open hands. Some come with hidden motives, polished words, and rehearsed charm. But the most dangerous ones don't shout, they whisper. They appeal to your empathy, your guilt, your fear of being seen as cold or selfish. And if you aren't sharp, if you aren't grounded in truth, you'll find yourself tangled in games you never agreed to play. To outsmart anyone, you must first outsmart the ones who wear masks of innocence while hiding strategies of control. Manipulation feeds on reaction. It thrives on confusion. The moment you lose your emotional footing, you become vulnerable to influence that doesn't serve you. That's why awareness is your shield. When you can see the pattern, you stop falling for the performance. You start recognizing the guilt traps disguised as concern, the flattery used to weaken your boundaries, the passive aggression cloaked in kindness. You begin to see through the illusion and respond from power, not panic. You don't have to fight manipulation with anger. You fight it with clarity. When someone tries to control you through subtle pressure, respond with questions, not emotion. When they twist the facts to serve their narrative, hold the truth in silence. When they bait you into defending yourself, refuse to play their game. The manipulator wants your energy. Don't give it. Don't feed the fire. Let it burn out in the cold wind of your indifference. That is how you win, not by reacting, but by remaining untouchable. Stay grounded in logic when others try to twist it. Hold your standards when others try to blur them. You do not owe anyone your peace. You do not have to soften yourself to maintain their comfort. If someone is offended by your clarity, your boundaries, or your ability to say no, that is not your burden to carry. That is the price of protecting your power, and it's always worth it. The ones who manipulate rely on your fear of being alone, your craving for approval, your tendency to doubt your instincts. Break that cycle. Stand tall in silence. Let them misunderstand you. Let them question your motives. You do not exist to be understood by those who use confusion as control. You exist to rise above the noise, clear in your values, firm in your choices, calm in your presence. There is nothing more intimidating to a manipulator than someone who sees everything, feels little, and responds with nothing but truth. No flinch, no explanation, just stillness backed by certainty. That's what makes you dangerous. That's what makes you different. When you learn to recognize manipulation for what it is, not power but desperation disguised as control, you become immune. And when you become immune, you stop playing defense. You begin designing the game. Quiet, sharp, unmoved. That is how real power responds. That is how you dominate without ever raising your voice. If you want total dominance, you must learn to master discipline. Not just once, but daily. Discipline is not about restriction. It's about liberation. When your emotions, habits, and focus are under your control, you stop living life on accident and start shaping it by design. Most people think freedom is doing what they feel like, but real freedom is doing what you decide to do, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is the silent builder of power. It doesn't scream. It doesn't need recognition. But every time you act with intention instead of impulse, you lay another brick in the foundation of unshakable strength. There is no dominance without consistency. Power is not something you stumble into. It's something you earn in private, through the repetition of what others find boring. While they quit at discomfort, you lean into it. While they make excuses, you execute. Every morning you rise with purpose. Every choice you make reinforces your identity. That is what separates you from the average. The willingness to do the hard thing over and over without applause. That's where the edge is forged. People will look at your outcomes and call it talent. They'll see your results and call it luck. They'll never understand the discipline behind it, the sacrifices no one saw, the battles you fought within yourself. But that doesn't matter, because you didn't build your life for their approval. You built it for your vision. And discipline is the only language that vision understands. Not emotion, not motivation, just daily, deliberate action, especially when it's hard. It starts with the smallest decisions, the choice to stay focused when your mind wants to drift, the choice to stay quiet when ego wants to speak, the choice to keep moving when everything in you screams to stop. These are the choices that stack. Not once, not twice, daily, hourly, until you become someone others can't keep up with. Not because you're faster, but because you simply never quit. You show up even when it's hard, you stay grounded even when it's chaotic. That is what creates separation. Discipline is not about perfection, it's about return. When you fall off track, you don't spiral, you realign. When you break your rhythm, you rebuild it faster. You don't wait for conditions to be perfect. You create momentum in the mess. You lead yourself before the world ever knows your name. Because you understand that real power doesn't come from what you do once. It comes from what you repeat when no one is watching. Let others chase hacks and shortcuts. Let them look for ease. But you, choose the edge of discipline. Choose the grind that sharpens you. Choose the path that demands more from you because you know it will give more to you. That's how you outlast. That's how you dominate. With quiet, relentless, disciplined action, day by day, brick by brick, until who you are can no longer be ignored, only respected, only feared, only followed. The mind is your battlefield. Every victory you'll ever win begins there. Before you dominate the room, before you win the negotiation, before you silence the noise, you must conquer your own thoughts. Because the loudest opposition isn't out there. It's inside. It's the voice that tells you to settle, the doubt that creeps in when no one's watching, the fear that whispers, "What if you're not enough?" You can't silence that voice with willpower alone. You silence it with identity, with repetition, with daily proof that you are who you say you are, not just in moments of strength, but in the silence of struggle. Your mind will believe what you feed it. If you constantly rehearse fear, you will freeze in moments that demand boldness. If you constantly speak weakness, your actions will mirror it. But when you train your thoughts with the same precision you train your body, everything changes. You don't wait to feel ready. You program yourself to act despite the feeling. You stop being reactive and start becoming intentional. That shift is the beginning of mental dominance, not over others, but over self. And that is where every external victory is born. You must protect your mind like your future depends on it, because it does. You must filter what enters it, what stays, and what builds roots. Stop feeding it garbage and expecting it to produce clarity. Starve it of distraction. Starve it of doubt. Feed it only what strengthens you. Thoughts of resilience, images of discipline, words of truth. Not because it feels good, but because it builds muscle. Mental muscle. The kind that doesn't flinch when life turns cold. The kind that stands tall when everything feels like it's falling apart. When the mind is aligned, the body follows. You move with confidence, not hesitation. You speak with clarity, not apology. You lead with certainty, not chaos. People feel the difference. They sense it in the way you carry yourself, in the way you respond, in the way you handle pressure. You don't need to announce your power. You radiate it, quietly, relentlessly. Because you've already won the fight most people lose daily, the one between who they are and who they pretend to be. Your habits shape your thoughts. Your thoughts shape your actions. Your actions shape your life. This is not about positive thinking. It's about mental control. It's about building a mindset so strong that not even failure can break you. A mind so clear that no opinion can sway you. A focus so sharp that distraction dies before it reaches you. The mind is a weapon. Sharpen it. Load it with truth. Fire it only with purpose. When your thoughts are disciplined, your life becomes unstoppable. Not because you're fearless, but because you're trained. Or not because life gets easier, but because you've gotten stronger. You've stepped into mastery. And from that space, nothing can pull you off your path. Not fear, not failure, not noise. Only forward. Always forward. That is the mind of the dominant. The moment you stop needing to prove yourself, you begin to command respect. True dominance has no desperation in it. It doesn't chase recognition. It doesn't scream for attention. And it never explains itself to small minds. The most powerful individuals are those who've realized they have nothing to prove and everything to protect. Especially their energy, their focus, and their peace. That kind of self-assurance doesn't come from applause. It comes from doing the work when no one is clapping. It comes from building an identity so solid that doubt can't find a crack to crawl into. You don't rise by proving you're better. You rise by proving to yourself that you're finished being less than you're capable of. You rise by walking away from the need to be seen and stepping into the fire of real growth. The fire that burns ego, that breaks illusions, that strips away everything fake until only truth remains. And the truth is, you don't need permission to be powerful. You need commitment to the vision, to the discipline, to the standard no one else sees but you. You can't lead from insecurity. You can't influence from approval seeking. People feel when your energy is desperate, when it's laced with the need to impress. But they also feel when your energy is grounded, when you know who you are, where you're going, and what you won't tolerate anymore. That kind of energy is magnetic. It doesn't compete. It doesn't perform. It simply enters and shifts the entire dynamic without a single word. Because that's what real power does. It speaks for itself. To reach that level, you have to stop playing the game that everyone else is playing, the game of comparison, the game of validation, the game of external success with internal emptiness. You weren't born to blend in. You weren't built to shrink. You were designed to own your space fully, to move with such deep alignment that no one's opinion can shake your direction. That doesn't come from ego. It comes from self-respect. It comes from doing the hard internal work that most avoid because it doesn't get praise, but it builds fire. Start detaching from what doesn't serve you. You don't need everyone to like you. You need to like the person you've become when no one is watching. Build that version. Respect that version. Let it walk into every room like it belongs, because it does. Not because someone said so, but because you decided it. Because you stopped waiting for validation and started living from conviction. Let your actions speak louder than your insecurities. Let your silence speak louder than your need to defend. Let your presence speak louder than your past. The ones who dominate don't need to be the loudest in the room. They just need to be the clearest about who they are. No noise, no pretending, just pure, grounded, undeniable truth. That's not arrogance. That's freedom. And that's where your real power begins.